Yes.
The happening of this presentation was actually really extremely spontaneous. Because I remember it was one evening, one weekend, when Raghava, Nirmal, and I were sitting just making the schedule for the seminar. And we were talking about these such cultural presentations. And then I just, for a moment, Mother brought me into Dallas awareness. And something came out. I didn't say it, but it was just Mother speaking, and without thinking, just told her, I'll do a presentation on Shri Sainath. And when Raghava just looked at me, there was longing for knowledge of that in his eyes. And he said one word, and that was yes. So I started making it. Sainath. I don't know why I've never done a presentation on this, but he has always been there ever since I was born, within my dreams and within my whole entire life. And I don't know if some of you have experienced this, but sometimes you just have such a connection to an Adi Guru or a deity that they feel like, it feels like you have seen them, or you have been with them within your past lives. So that is what Shri Sainath is to this spirit. He's been my fakir, he's been my guide throughout my whole entire life, and he still is. Maybe I will share the experience of that meditation at the end of this presentation. But in the Saj world, we don't know much about him, and there's not much to be known, because he was such a different Adi Guru. This is one of his quotes here that we have in the mantra book. See the divine in human being. He was the complete essence of an incarnation taking a human form. And his life's message was that. See the divine in human being. So I want to start this presentation off with singing a few lines of Gyaneshwar. Those of you who don't know, Gyaneshwar, Saint Gyaneshwar is very, very extremely the king of poets in Maharashtra. He was the incarnation of Shri Shirdi. And all that flowed from him was just this knowledge of the universe that we can only understand when we reach the realization that we are created today to unite Sadashiva and Adishakti together through ourselves.
Jai
Anantami Advaita Adimi Avyakta Avyakta Anadimi Amar Abhayami Adhar Akshayame Akshaya Apurvami Apara
So for Sainath, like I said, there's not much to be known, but this is what we know from the mantra book, that he's the last incarnation of Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya, the last one. How powerful is that? That the Adi Guru, this was his last incarnation. He was born in Maharashtra in the 18th century, and he passed away in 1918, and that is 5 years before Shri Mataji incarnated. How important this Adi Guru must be, that he was the last one, and after him there would be this emancipation of humanity. He had to work so hard, and because of the coming of the mother, he had to be the complete incarnation of Adi Guru Dattatreya. He had to be the Sadguru that just emits truth wherever he walks, wherever he goes, whatever he speaks. He has to be Sahaj Yoga, he has to live it. And that's what his life was. He didn't write any books. And in a way, he didn't gain any disciples. All he did was live the most divine life. And hence, see the divine in a human being. That was him. And he kind of, by his example, we can just ask ourselves, this is the Guru, and we can become the Guru. And once you know his personality, you realize how much of the Guru, the personality of the Guru, that we have to establish within ourselves, because it's so immensely powerful. So first, we're going to start with the essence, right? Because in Sahaj culture, that is the first principle. is that self-realization gives us the essence of everything, the essence of life, the essence of the world, and in a way it is the essence of all education upon this earth. And so that is what we treasure. And sometimes we don't realize it, that that is even what we want to know, and that's what we want to be filled with. So, yeah, let's get straight to the point of who Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya is, and how vastly powerful his essence is. So Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya, we know, and it's just common knowledge within us that we're told that he is the Adi Guru. But what is the Adi Guru really? So then, Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya is the complete integration of Shri Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. When we sing the Guru Mantra, we sing Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara. And when there is the integration of those three, it creates Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. And when the Guru reaches the state of that Parabrahma, when there's that complete incarnation, then that is when he or she is the perfect disciple of Shri Adi Shakti. And that is what Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya is. So he is the incarnation of all these three that have sustained creation. And from them flow the powers of Mahasaraswati, Mahalakshmi, and Mahakali. And so then, in that way, he is a complete instrument of the divine. And then, oh yeah, that was interesting. So I was reading the Ganesha Atta Rishi one day, and then this line stuck. Tvam Shakti Traya Atmaka. That's one of the description of Sri Ganesha, is that he is the complete source of Shri Mahalakshmi, Shri Mahakali, and Shri Mahasaraswati, and all of them are within him. In the same way, the Guru has all of the male aspects within him. So he has all the aspects of Sadashiva, all the creation he has within him, within his heart. And that is the source of all the knowledge that he has. And so then, in him, Shri Brahma is the knowing of truth. Shri Vishnu is the living of truth, and Shri Shiva is the being of truth. And that creates the completeness of Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya. And so we are explained by Srimataji just like these principles, because he is a principle and he's a force. We can't really get his darshan or anything, but he is a feeling, and he is completely just, he is a way of life when we awaken him within us. And there's a quote that I want to read, which is, "This is the principle which gives you balance, which gives you gravity. The gravity that we have in the Mother Earth is expressed through the Guru principle." And so then there's a lot of parallels between Shri Ganesha and Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya. Shri Ganesha, if he is the magnet, then Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya is the gravity of the Mother Earth. And together they create the divinity that the Mother Earth is. Without these two, the Mother Earth cannot realize her own purity, and her full powers will not be used, because these are the action forces of her personality. So In short, all Adi Gurus are that gravity force of the Mother Earth. And they are totally connected with that. And they know that they are connected with that. So yeah, just expanding on that. Shri Ganesha is the roots. He's on the Muladhara chakra, and that is the roots of our being. Then Shri Dattatreya is the trunk that keeps the trunk in balance, the whole tree in balance. And when the branches are overgrown and the roots are not that strong, then the trunk fails. Right? So then we need both the roots and the trunk, because the trunk, it gives support to all the branches. And so then there is a point where Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya becomes the Sadguru, which is basically the universe. And it's so vast. Just only Shri Adi Shakti and Shri Shastada Shiva know the full essence of this. So then this Adi Guru has 10 incarnations, and these incarnations were brought to this earth to express to humanity and to direct their attention to spirituality when it was on the verge. Right? So Shri Sai Babas is the last Adi Guru. And so India was really on the verge, because the British Empire came into power, and that brought about just a degrading of Indians as human beings, and they just didn't know what their identity was, but they wanted to seek for it. And so then they turned to religion and ritualism, which was another extreme, right? And that brings us away from the spirit. So that is why Sai Baba took birth in the Kundalini of the world. It's because he had to raise it to the level beyond conditioning. So in a way, he had to be a complete physical embodiment of this divine love, this divine action, and this divine truth, that whenever people would see him, they would see the love of a mother within him. And all of that they would see. So Sainath's incarnation was it was really a play. It was almost like Shri Krishna, but even more intense, because he knew what he was. He absolutely knew what he was. He had this extreme confidence in his powers, and he wasn't afraid to show them. And I'll tell some stories later, but there's this quote: "Everything is attracted to the Mother Earth because of her gravity. So you get a magnetic temperament, a magnetic character, a magnetic personality. And this magnetic personality that you develop immediately shows that it is manifesting its powers." So Shri Sainath was the embodiment of the Guru's gravity, and he would not go to the city and share this knowledge that he has. People would just come to him. All the previous Adi Gurus before him had to go out. They had to use the rasa. They had to go out and lead the people. but Shri Sainath, we call him Shirdi Sainath, because he stayed in Shirdi. And he was such an embodiment of the Guru's gravity that people came to him. And this is something that we can learn from Shri Sainath, is that we have to become that magnet, that people come to us and see the light within our eyes and say, what am I missing within my life? And we have to have that complete confidence. We have to know that we are angels, like Sri Hanuman. We have to know that we are angels and just have faith that we are Mother's children and that we were given all of her powers. It's a time today that Shri Adi Shakti has allowed herself, her whole self, to be present within us. So we have all the powers of creation. And so Shri Sainath, through his life, he taught that. Some stories. There's one really, really short story called The Ganga Flows. And the thing about Shri Sainath is that he would teach through his whole incarnation. He would just he was a very straightforward incarnation. He would tell them who he was, actually. So he has a lot of amazing stories. And we have these weapons that are drawn with deities. Right? Hanuman holds the mace. They hold all these physical weapons, but Shri Sainath, his weapon was vibrated Havan ash. He just vibrated it because he was completely surrendered to the Param Chaitanya, and he puts all of his love there. And that ash could fix anything and everything. So it just tells you about how confident he was. So this is another story about his confidence. So one of his disciples was going to Varanasi, to go see the Ganga, bathe in it, and become purified ultimately. And Shri Sainath said to him, "Why go? Look at my feet. There flows the Ganga. There flows all of the sacred rivers. Just put your hands on my feet, and there you will be purified. Here flows the Ganga." And then there's page 11. And then there's one extremely humorous one that only real souls can understand. So as this whole presentation says, Sainath was completely straightforward, and he didn't know anything else. He allowed himself to be so beyond the Maya that he was extremely, extremely innocent, but at the same time, extremely powerful, just like Sri Jesus. So there's a court case that he was involved in, and we know all this because of his most recent incarnation. This is 18th century, guys. This is so recent. So we have those documents, and it turns out the police caught a burglar, right, who stole some jewels, right? And so then that burglar told them that, oh yeah, Shri Shirdi Sai Babas gave them to me. And they're like, oh really? So then they went to Shirdi, and they sought Sainath, and they took him to court. And so then this is the conversation that Sainath had with the jury. Okay. "What is your name?" he began, as the procedure dictated. They call me Sai Baba. Sai Baba. Your father's name? Also Sai Baba. Your guru's name? Venkusha, who's basically his called. No. Creed or religion? His answer? Kabir. Because Kabir talked about this complete integration and that how spontaneous realization is the bridge to all the essence of spirituality. And then the jury said, age? Millions of years. And then, so then the magistrate then switched on to another tack. Will you solemnly affirm that what you are going to say is the truth and nothing but the truth? And you can imagine, because we're all realized souls, you can imagine what Shri Sainath looked like at that moment. Because he's the Guru, he is truth. And he says, the truth. Baba briefly affirmed. Do you know the accused? Yes, I know him. I know everyone. He said that he is your devotee, he stayed with you. Is that so? Yes. All are with me. All are mine. And then the magistrate said, did you give him some jewels as alleged by him? Yes, I gave them to him. But wait, who gives what and to whom? Who gives what and to whom? He's talking about realization. If you gave him the jewels, how did you get possession of them? Everything is mine.
How did it end? How did the court case end?
The magistrate got fed up. and Sainath just walked out. Drop the mic. Yeah. So you can see that Sai Baba was complete essence, and he taught that complete essence, and he directed the attention to it by just saying it like it is. And he wouldn't cloud his perception, his spiritual perception, with anyone that he spoke to. And so then, he didn't write any books. Why is that? Because he was born in Maharashtra. And we all know that there are so many realized souls and so many incarnations there that have written about self-realization. And so then he didn't have to write anything, because they're like the poetry of Gyaneshwar and all the other saints. And he would teach, like Srimataji would teach the Bhagavad Gita. There's a lot of public programs where Srimataji says, Yoga Kshema Vahamya. And she always quotes this line. And then she takes it apart. What is yoga? What is Kshema? And then what is Vahamya? And so he would teach like that. There was one time his disciple came to him, and Shri Sai Babas said, you know the Gita? And his disciple says, yes, I know it. and so then Sai Babas said, recite to me a line. And so then this disciple recited one that he just totally remembered by heart. And then Sai Baba says, what is the essence of it? What is the meaning of this word? Why is it in this sentence? And how does this relate to you? What does this mean for you? Why are you reading the Bhagavad Gita? So it's that essence that he directed. And so then in Saj culture, it's so important to get these books again, and so that we can connect to a larger piece and connect people through realization. So these are the books that he recommended, that Shri Sainath recommends all of his disciples read. There's the Amrit Anubhav, which is absolutely extremely beautiful because all it's describing is us, the essence of us, beyond Sastra, what we have to become. And it's extremely powerful. Amrit means the nectar of immortality, and Anubhav is the experience of it. And then Gyaneshwari, you all might know, which is an incarnation's interpretation of an incarnation's words. And so Ganeshwar's literature was so much that we have a lot of realized souls that have reference to realization, right? So many of them. But Ganeshwar is the incarnation of Kartikeya. He wrote his literature just assuming that. Okay, so assume you're above the Sastra, you know Srimati, you recognize her. Oh, so what is the next step? That is what all of his poetry is about. And then there's the Bhagavad Gita, of course. And there's a translation that everyone's good, which is by Namaskar. just yeah. And then Samartha Ramdas, Dasabodh. He was another incarnation. He was an incarnation of Sri Hanuman, and he was another one who he didn't conceal anything at all. And he's the one who wrote the Maruti Stottra, which is just a description of Hanuman. A description of Hanuman. He's writing about himself. It's so amazing. So Dasabodh is about complete balance in the Maya, but above it. And it is just as Shri Hanuman would do, really. It's just instructions about how to be a devotee of complete caliber. And he's an exercise. He's known to be like one of the most fittest sages of all time. He's known to be like really, really strong and really buff. I'm like, wow, that's totally Sri Hanuman. And then there's the Eknathi Bhagavat, which is written by Eknath, and Gita Rahasya, which is also written by him. So then, this wisdom, a lot of things that you can experience about Shri Sainath is his sayings. Trust in the Satguru fully. This is the only sadhana. The Satguru is all the gods. He is universal. And we have that within us and we can awaken it. I am the bond slave of my devotee. I love devotion. He who withdraws his heart from the world's Maya is my true lover, and he merges in me like a river in the sea. So he allowed all of his disciples to become a part of him. And he would just visit them in dreams, and sometimes even in real life. And even though he was staying in one place, he was everywhere. Because he was the incarnation of the Sadguru, he could do that. In whatever faith men worship me, even so do I render unto them. He's like a bridge that connects all religions together. I have to go 1,000 miles to take care of humanity. That is the Adi Guru in its essence. I have to go 1,000 miles to take care of humanity. And you can imagine Shrimataji saying that. So originally I thought that this presentation would be earlier than Chris's video. So I decided to create this thread, because how does this connect to Sri Jesus? And so then something came that both are the personifications of confidence and vigor, who allows the essence of themselves, however vast, expresses itself through the Mahamaya, complete concern for humanity and its spiritual ascent. That was what they are. There's one quote which you can actually link to the confidence of the Ganga flow of that story. It's in the Gospel of Thomas, I believe. And one of the apostles asks Jesus, "Why are you here?" And Jesus said, "I'm here to enlighten the fire, but to know that I have all the power to destroy it." So that's the confidence. That is the confidence. So then, of course, one of Sai Babas' purposes was to break the conditioning of religion as identity. And in that way, he tried to bring humanity to such a state where they were extremely one with each other. And then he lived truth. And that is what we have to do. So that his work is still going on. That's not done yet. So this is our checklist. A glimpse of the culture of the spirit. He recommended all the books of the realized souls. That's not done yet. It's a glimpse of our culture. This is a glimpse of this entire family that we have. And it's something that is it's really important to establish, because that's what is reflected with non-Sahajas, is this culture that they see and how perfect it is. And in that way, Shri Sainath was completely the Vishwa in Vishwa Nirmadama. He was so universal. Everyone respects him. Everyone loves him. Yet he didn't go anywhere. He didn't do anything. He didn't write. But there's this love that just it flows from his eyes. And so with that, I want to tell you a few dreams that Shri Mataji has given from the very beginning of his life, and all of them have had Sainath with them. This is actually really recent. It was October 26, 2019. And this really just, it was around the time that we were writing this presentation, and it really showed the essence of why Shri Sainath was here. So yeah, by the way, I'm always in Maharashtra when this happens. Rishi was in India. He was older, traveling the hills of Maharashtra. He saw a mosque praising the sun and calling Allahu Akbar. As a man came from it, his countenance was misted by the light of the sun. Yet, when he approached, he and Rishi walked together in silence. Allahu Akbar remained on his lips. After time passed, he stopped, and Rishi stopped too. Halted, he looked around him at the sky above, and Rishi said unto the man, "It is all beautiful." The man, he jumped from his standing feet with hues of fear and malice in his eyes, and of a sudden, he was filled with rage, and with that rage, he left the path. Shri Mataji's voice came into Rishi's consciousness and ordered, is coming for you. Take shelter, quickly. And there, amidst the path, was a police station, where Rishi stayed without fear in his heart. Sure enough, the man came. His steps were quick and angry. Yet, when he came to the station to face Rishi, his eyes were a pond of tears, and a bundle of sweet incense was in his hands. With the voice of love, he said, "You have shown me the beauty of everything. You are my Guru." And he started waving fragrance around Rishi's form. But as soon as he would complete the circle of creation, Mahalakshmi, Ma Saraswati, Mahakali, as soon as he finished that circle of creation, Rishi stopped him, for behind the man sitting was the silhouette, the wisdom of Baba himself. And he spoke. Rishi spoke. "Brother, what are you doing? The one you are seeking for is right behind you." The man, once seeing Baba's form, fell at his feet. And Shri Sai Baba blessed him, saying, "Now, child, you are free." And the man who came from the mosque waved fragrance around his form. The end. So, Shri Sainath, in that dream, you can see you are free. That's the first thing that when I woke up, I was just fulfilled with joy. That's what I remember. You are free. So he's the one, he's the last incarnation. He had to give the freedom to human beings. He had to take away all the conditionings of volition so that they could become universal beings, so that the Adi Shakti could come and give them their second birth. He was the freedom. He was the freedom. And so then, it is kind of the end of the presentation. Unless Elliot wants me to share that. Okay, so during the meditation, what was that? Yesterday? 2 days ago? Already 2 days ago. I feel like it was yesterday. When we reached Satsang, always described the whole solar system like a mountain, and the Satsang is the peak of that mountain. So in that meditation, there was like the feeling of the mountain, not the image of a mountain, but the feeling of the mountain. And there was the spirit on top of the mountain. It was like dancing flames. And there on the peak also stood Sainath. And he cupped this spirit in his hands, and we floated above the stars. And there, above the stars, were Shri Sada Shiva and Shri Adi Shakti. And if everyone reads Amritan above, they'll know what they look like. And so then when that union happened, Elliot led the meditation. He said, "Open your eyes." So then, sitting right there, opened my eyes, and I couldn't see Shri Mataji. Couldn't see the frame, couldn't see the picture, I couldn't even see the feet that everyone even sees. All I saw was this all-pervading light. And when you saw it, you knew that it was the light of love and of truth and of all creation. It was the light of the Virat. And now it's like, okay, we can raise our Kundalini, bow down, take a bandhan, we can stand the meditation. And then, but something told me, no, just keep your eyes open. And then close them. So then, eyes were closed again. And it's almost like Sri Mataji was sitting right there. And she was speaking to me. And the Spirit's voice said, "This is my last birth. This is the last birth I'm going to take on this earth. What aspect of Sadashiva do I need to express in this life, in this last life?" And Shri Mataji immediately gave an answer. She said, "You are the aspect of Nada that is the music that spreads throughout the universe." So yeah, again, Sainath was there. So now that's the end of the presentation. And so then, during this presentation, we were talking about confidence, and confidence in our powers. And so then I just kind of want to bring that out there and just ask, how can we improve our confidence of our powers and giving realization and knowing that we are? I'm just going to put that up there. Anyone of you can share.
I'm gonna go tell everyone upstairs to be quiet.
I think it's really important to, like, as realized souls, to really understand and a little bit of study the powers within us and the deities within us. So, for example, with Raghu's presentation and same with this one, I really understood what it means to have all of this within me, but I really interiorize how awesome and how great my capabilities are, you know, this forgiveness and the confidence in these powers. So I think it's, because I'm pretty sure I can talk for almost everybody when I say that we kind of just learn empirically as we just grew up, but then at least I don't take the time to really sit down and read and really go all over the incarnations and the deities that are within me and that reside in me, right? To really give me that confidence that I'm able to change the world, right? What I think is really important to understand what's happening within us, to understand the deities within us, what do they represent, and therefore what do they represent.
Rishi, one thing that I was hoping you would share with us a little bit more is just an overview of Shri Sainath's life, like what he actually did, because we do have a little tiny bit of that knowledge. So like if you could give us like a brief history about like how he lived his life.
So, oh yeah, I have a picture of that about coming up. Okay, so I forgot to explain this. So this is Dwarka Mai, and it's in Shirdi. You can still actually see it today. And as far as Shri Sainath's life in Shirdi, one day he just appeared under a tree in Shirdi, just meditating. And a housewife is the first one who saw him. And in him, she saw his son, or her son. And all she wanted to do was just cook him food and bring it to him. Because he was under that tree for like 10 years or something. He was just in Nirvikota. And he was glowing. And he had a lot of experiences actually with it. Like things would come to him, and people were actually like trying to find out who he is, but he would never open his eyes. Like, who are you? Who are you? And so then the mother took him in and raised him, just like Yashoda. That's really powerful, just like Yashoda. And some days he would just go and tell his mother, "I'm leaving," and she would say, "Oh, but son, where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to take care of humanity." And he would just go, and he would always return to Shirdi though. But at the time when he grew older, he took his residence in Dwarakamai, which is really interesting because its structure just reflects his total philosophy of this universality. Because it was, at one point it was a mosque, but then it was also a Hindu temple. So then the Hindus and the Muslims were fighting over, it's like, what is this? Is this a mosque or a temple? And so then that's actually, like, from that argument, that's where most of Sainath's disciples came from. Yeah, and he said that it's both. It's called Dwarakamai because this place will give rise to the Dwaraka, which is the kingdom of realized souls. And so then he took residence there. There's one story where he loved Deepavali, and he would always light diyas, but he would light them with water. And he would just go about just doing daily activities. He would go to the village, ask for alms, and he would not feed them to himself. He would feed them to the goats of the village. And there was one time where one of his disciples was carrying food for Sainath. And then as he was going to the Dwarakamai, he saw this dog that was absolutely helpless. And it was about to vanish. So then he gave the food to the dog. He felt so bad about it. His left Rishi started catching. And he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that. What is Baba going to say?" And so then he went to Dwarakamai just to repent and say, "Oh, I brought food for you, Baba, but I wasn't able to give it to you." And then Sainath said, "You already gave it to me. That was a very nice meal." Yeah, so basically he stayed in Dwarakamai, just doing these simple things, but in those simple things lie all the subtlety. And he would make roti, and that flour would be like him taking care of the world. He took his samadhi there, and his last words were exactly the same as Srimati's last words. Exactly the same. He said that I will be with you at every moment, at every step. Whenever you call for me, I will come. It's like, I am still living, for I am eternal. bow down, raise our kundalini, take it over.